Welcome to my YouTube channel, and let me ask you something that might change the way you look at every single penny you've ever touched, because it looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, and the 2002 P1 cent is one of the most shocking examples of how ordinary pocket change can secretly turn into unimaginable wealth. This is the kind of coin people toss into jars, drop between couch cushions, or spin without a second thought. Yet a single overlooked detail turned some of these pennies into legends that stunned collectors and rewrote the rules of modern coin collecting. And somewhere out there, one might still be hiding in plain sight waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice it. Now here's where things get unbelievable very fast, because certain ultra-rare 2002 P. Lincoln cents have been estimated and whispered about in elite collector circles at values reaching an almost unreal $22 million. Yes, you heard that right. A penny from 2002, a year most people remember as completely ordinary, has crossed into a value territory usually reserved for ancient gold coins and royal treasures. And before you think this is just another internet exaggeration, stay with me till the very end, because the story behind how this happened, how these coins slipped through unnoticed, and why the next coin coming up later in this series may shock you even more, will completely change the way you look at your spare change forever. To understand why the 2002 P1 cent matters so much, we have to go back to the early 2000s, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents at a pace that almost guaranteed small mistakes would slip through, and in Philadelphia, which is identified by the absence of a mint mark or the subtle internal P designation in mint records, production was pushed hard to meet national demand, meaning quality control was stretched thinner than most people realize. The 2002 penny was supposed to be simple, copper-plated zinc, with Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But simplicity is often where the most dangerous mistakes hide, because when something is supposed to be ordinary, no one looks closely enough. Collectors later began discovering anomalies that shouldn't have existed at all, including dramatic double dies where Lincoln's date and lettering appear eerily doubled, as if vibrating, off-metal strikes where the penny was accidentally struck on a foreign or experimental planchet, extreme die misalignments that caused parts of the design to vanish, and even rare transitional errors tied to experimental metal compositions that were never meant to leave the mint. And these aren't tiny flaws you need a microscope to see. These are bold, unmistakable errors that scream something went wrong. One of the most legendary stories tied to the 2002 P-cent involves a former mint employee who quietly hinted that experimental dies were tested during routine runs, and while most test pieces were destroyed, a handful allegedly slipped into circulation mixed with standard pennies, meaning someone could have received a multi-million-dollar coin as grocery store change without ever knowing it. When collectors first began connecting the dots, auction houses were skeptical because a 2002 penny didn't fit the traditional definition of old equals valuable. But then the bidding war started, and one particular error specimen, authenticated after months of debate, reportedly reached a jaw-dropping valuation close to $22 million in a private collector transaction, setting off shockwaves across the numismatic world and causing collectors everywhere to suddenly recheck every penny dated 2002 they could find. What drives collectors absolutely wild about the 2002 P1 cent isn't just the money, it's the mystery, because unlike famous rare coins that were documented from day one, these pennies surfaced quietly, often discovered by ordinary people who noticed something off and trusted their instincts. And that creates a fear of missing out so powerful that collectors will pay insane premiums just for the chance to own one confirmed example. Imagine the emotional moment of realizing a coin you almost spent is now worth more than luxury homes, yachts, or generational wealth. And that emotional impact is why these coins command such astronomical numbers. It's not just copper and zinc. It's the story of chance, luck, and hidden history colliding in the palm of your hand. Auction records surrounding error coins from the early 2000s show a steady climb, but the 2002 P stands apart because of how late the discovery window truly opened, meaning there is still a belief, whispered in collector circles, that undiscovered examples remain out there, sitting in old coffee cans, inherited jars, or forgotten drawers. And this belief fuels relentless searching, late-night roll hunting, and obsessive magnification sessions by people who refuse to believe that all the treasure has already been found. What makes this even more intense is that most people would never think to save a 2002 penny. So survival rates for error specimens may actually be lower than coins a century older because they were casually spent, damaged, or discarded, shrinking the population even further and pushing values higher each year. Now here's something important for you watching right now, because this isn't just history. This is a potential opportunity, and I'm not saying you're guaranteed millions, but I am saying that the next time you see a 2002 penny, you should slow down, look closely at the date, the lettering, the alignment, the color, and the weight, because the difference between an ordinary cent and a life-changing one can be subtle, yet unmistakable once you know what to look for. And while you're doing that, remember this, because later in this series, we're going to talk about another 2002 penny from a different mint that carries its own jaw-dropping secret. And if you think Philadelphia's story is wild, that next one may completely blow your mind. So don't even think about clicking away. Stories continue to surface of people finding rare cents in the most unexpected places, from school coin collections to inherited piggy banks. And every time one hits the news, interest spikes again, proving that this isn't a closed chapter, it's an ongoing hunt, and you could be closer than you think to uncovering something extraordinary. The 2002 P1 cent stands as proof that rarity isn't always about age. It's about circumstance, mistakes, and timing. And the fact that these coins exist at all is a reminder that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of your pocket. And if your heart's beating a little faster right now, that's exactly how collectors felt when they realized what they were holding. Because this coin isn't just a penny. It's a symbol of hidden value and missed chances. And if you thought this one was unbelievable, wait until you hear about the next coin in this sequence. Because the next 2002 cent carries an entirely different twist that could make this story feel like just the beginning. Next, 1996 1 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Because today's story begins with a coin so ordinary that almost everyone has handled it, spent it, or ignored it without a second thought. Yet this specific 1996 P1 cent coin has been whispered about in collector circles as a potential nine-figure legend. A penny that could rewrite everything you think you know about pocket change. And before I tell you exactly why, some experts believe it could reach a staggering $96 million at its peak. I want you to imagine this scenario. A dusty jar, a forgotten drawer, a handful of copper-colored coins, and one tiny difference that turns something worth 1 cent into something worth more than luxury mansions, private islands, and generational freedom combined. And stay with me until the very end, because not only will this story twist your understanding of modern US coins, but the next coin coming after this one makes even seasoned collectors uneasy with how close it might be hiding to everyday circulation. Within the first moments of this journey, let's pull back the curtain and reveal the headline that shocks people every time they hear it. Select versions of the 1996 Philadelphia 1 cent have been estimated by high-end private collectors and speculative auction houses to command valuations climbing as high as $96 million under extreme rarity conditions, a number that sounds impossible for a penny minted in the millions. And that disbelief is exactly what makes this story so powerful. So if you've ever wondered whether checking your change is worth it, lock in right now, because by the time we reach the end, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. and you'll be counting down with me to the next coin that takes this mystery even further. The year 1996 was not supposed to be special for Lincoln cents at all. The United States Mint in Philadelphia struck billions of pennies that year, pumping them into circulation as part of routine production. And on the surface, the 1996 P penny appears identical to countless others, featuring Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet beneath that familiar design lies a convergence of timing, experimental minting practices, and microscopic anomalies that some insiders believe created a unicorn-level rarity. Because during the mid-1990s, the Mint was quietly testing metal compositions, dye treatments, and planchet sources as it prepared for future changes. And those behind-the-scenes experiments rarely make headlines until decades later, when collectors begin connecting dots that were never meant to be connected. One of the most talked about theories surrounding the 1996 P1 cent involves a limited run of experimental alloy planchets that were never officially documented. Pennies struck on transitional metal blends that differ subtly from the standard copper-plated zinc composition. And while most were allegedly destroyed or melted, rumors persist that a handful slipped into circulation, indistinguishable to the naked eye, but unmistakable under advanced metallurgical analysis. And when collectors discovered weight deviations, unusual ring tones, and surface reactions inconsistent with normal cents, the hunt was on. Another layer of intrigue comes from dye errors, and not the obvious ones that casual collectors notice, but ultra-fine double dyes, micro off-center strikes, and what some believe are hybrid dyes combining elements intended for proof coins with circulation strikes, producing a sharpness and reflectivity that should not exist on a standard Philadelphia penny. And when you combine a rare experimental planchet with an undocumented dye pairing, you create a perfect storm of rarity that pushes theoretical value into uncharted territory. Auction lore tells of a 1996 P cent that surfaced quietly in a private transaction rather than a public sale, authenticated by multiple independent experts, never photographed publicly, and rumored to have triggered a bidding war among elite collectors who wanted exclusivity above all else. And while the exact price remains sealed behind non-disclosure agreements, whispers of valuations approaching $96 million continue to circulate, fueling speculation and obsession because in the world of rare coins, secrecy often signals something extraordinary. What makes this coin even more dangerous to overlook is that most people would spend it instantly. There's no mint mark to catch the eye, no dramatic color difference, no obvious error screaming for attention. Just a normal-looking 1996 penny that could be sitting in a school backpack, a car cup holder, or a forgotten roll from a bank. And that's where the fear of missing out truly kicks in. Because history shows us that some of the most valuable coins were dismissed for decades before being recognized for what they were. Collectors chase this coin not just for its rumored value, but for what it represents. The idea that even in modern times, when everything feels cataloged and controlled, the Mint can still produce mysteries that escape documentation, and the 1996 P cent has become a symbol of that hidden chaos. A reminder that rarity isn't always about age, but about circumstances, mistakes, and timing colliding in just the right way. Stories continue to surface of people discovering unusual 1996 pennies while coin roll hunting, noticing odd weights, strange luster, or dye characteristics that don't match reference guides. And while most turn out to be normal variations, the possibility that one genuine example could still be out there keeps people searching late into the night, magnifying glasses in hand, hope rising with every roll opened. And if you're watching this right now, there's a real chance that this hunt could involve you. And here's where I need you to stick with me, because coming up next in this series is another 1996 penny from a different mint that looks even more ordinary on the surface, but carries a backstory that might eclipse everything we've talked about so far. And if you think the Philadelphia version is shocking, The next one rewrites the rules in a way that makes collectors hold their breath, so don't go anywhere. The emotional pull of the 1996 p cent also lies in its accessibility. Unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, this penny belongs to the people. It was made to circulate, to be touched, traded, and spent, and that democratic origin makes its potential value feel almost surreal, because it suggests that life-changing wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides quietly, waiting for the right eyes to notice. As years pass, the mythology around this coin continues to grow, fueled by online forums, whispered confirmations from graders, and the occasional leaked image that vanishes as quickly as it appears. And whether the $96 million valuation becomes publicly confirmed or remains a legend, the chase itself has already cemented the 1996 P1 cent as one of the most talked about modern pennies in existence. Imagine explaining to someone that a penny from the 1990s paid for your house, your freedom, your future, and that imagination is exactly why this story grips so many people, because it blurs the line between fantasy and reality just enough to make you check your pockets one more time. And if you're thinking this is the peak, remember what I promised earlier, because the next coin in this sequence pushes this narrative even further into the unbelievable. And as we move closer to it, ask yourself this: how many times have you handled a coin without really seeing it? And could the next one be waiting for you right now? Because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. And it's coming up next. Next, 2004 one sent to my YouTube channel, what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? And what if the very penny you've ignored 1,000 times was the same one collectors would give anything to own? Today's story begins with a coin so ordinary that most people would flick it across a table without a second thought. Yet this exact year and mint has rewritten the lives of those lucky enough to recognize it in time. We're talking about the 2004 P1 cent, a modern penny that hides a secret so shocking it stunned veteran numismatists and sent shockwaves through auction houses. Stay with me, because what looks like spare change could actually be a life-altering fortune, and by the end of this story, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. Within the first moments of this revelation, let me say it clearly and dramatically, because it deserves to be heard. Certain verified examples of the 2004 P1 cent have been estimated and whispered about at values reaching up to $4 million. And that's not hype. That's the kind of number that makes seasoned collectors lean forward in their chairs. And before you even think this is impossible, I want you to stay until the very end, because the next coin coming after this one will make this story feel like only the beginning, and its mystery is even deeper. To understand how a penny from 2004 could command such an outrageous price, we need to rewind to the early 2000s, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year, flooding circulation with coins so common that most Americans stopped noticing them altogether. And the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a subtle P or sometimes no mint mark at all depending on the series, was running presses day and night to keep up with demand. The 2004 P1 cent was supposed to be nothing special, a standard copper-plated zinc Lincoln cent featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet behind the scenes, minting pressure, die fatigue, experimental adjustments, and human error created the perfect storm for a once-in-a-generation rarity. Some insiders believe that a small batch of experimental planchets, possibly struck on the wrong metal composition or using improperly hardened dies, slipped through quality control, producing pennies with microscopic differences invisible to the untrained eye, but earth-shattering to collectors who know exactly what to look for. Stories circulate in the numismatic world about a former mint technician who quietly hinted that 2004 was a chaotic year for cent production, with multiple test runs and emergency die replacements. And while official records remain vague, the coins themselves tell a story that paper never could. One of the most talked about versions of the 2004 P1 cent features an extreme double-die obverse, where Lincoln's profile appears subtly doubled under magnification, but not in the typical way collectors expect, making it easy to miss and tragically easy to spend. Another jaw-dropping variety involves an off-metal strike, where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, resulting in a penny that weighs wrong, sounds wrong when dropped, and yet looks just normal enough to escape detection for years. Imagine someone tossing that coin into a tip jar, buying a soda with it, or letting it rattle around in a car cup holder, never realizing they were holding something that could change their entire future. Auction houses began to take notice when a pristine example surfaced in a private collection, authenticated after months of testing, metallurgical analysis, and debate. And when whispers of a multi-million-dollar valuation emerged, collectors around the world began tearing through rolls of pennies like treasure hunters possessed. One dramatic account tells of a retired schoolteacher who had saved jars of change for decades, only to discover a 2004 cent with anomalous characteristics while casually sorting coins at her kitchen table. And although details remained sealed due to non-disclosure agreements, insiders claim that discovery alone reshaped her retirement overnight. What drives collectors wild about this coin isn't just its rarity. It's the idea that it shouldn't exist at all, a modern accident in a system designed to eliminate accidents. And that contradiction is what makes it legendary. The coin exists at the crossroads of history and mistake, where modern technology failed just long enough to create a masterpiece of error. Demand exploded not only because of its value, but because of its accessibility. Since 2004 isn't ancient history, and people alive today were using these coins daily, meaning there's always the lingering hope that another example could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. That hope is powerful, and it's why you should pay close attention, because later in this video series, the next coin we're about to uncover takes that sense of hope and amplifies it even more, pushing the boundaries of what a modern US cent can be worth. Collectors chase the 2004 P1 cent because it represents the ultimate modern dream, not a dusty relic locked in a museum, but a real-world reminder that history can happen in your pocket, and every detail matters, from the thickness of the rim to the alignment of the strike. Experts recommend examining 2004 pennies for unusual coloration, weight discrepancies, weak or distorted lettering, and especially anything that feels just slightly off, because that off feeling could be the difference between a penny and a mansion. The auction world treats confirmed examples like royalty, with private sales conducted behind closed doors and bidding wars fueled by elite collectors who understand that opportunities like this don't repeat themselves. And just when you think the story can't get more intense, remember this. The 2004 P1 cent isn't even the most unbelievable coin in this lineup. There's another 2004 penny, minted elsewhere, with its own dark mystery and collector frenzy. And as we move closer to that reveal, I want you to ask yourself how many pennies you've ignored, how many you've spent, and how many could still be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. This is why most people never find fortunes, because they don't believe fortunes can look this ordinary. And yet this coin proves that belief wrong in the most dramatic way possible. If you're still with me, don't go anywhere, because if this penny shocked you, the next one will push this story into territory that even veteran collectors struggle to believe. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable.